Welcome to another episode of Well-Adjusted Mama. I'm your host, Dr. Laura Brayton, and today's guest is Lahana Vigliano, and we'll be speaking on the healthy living for the whole family. Lahana Vigliano is the CEO of Thrival Nutrition, and she's a holistic clinical nutritionist who loves to educate people around the world on ways they can improve their life with real food, fitness, herbs, and all that jazz. She is a wife, mother of 2 young children. And while she was in college, she switched majors from going on to becoming a physician assistant to getting a BS in nutrition science because she realized she wanted to do more with holistic lifestyle and not prescribing medications to help with chronic illness. She got her postgraduate clinical nutrition degree and passed her clinical nutrition boards as a certified clinical nutritionist. She also completed Josh Ack's Institute of Nutritional Leadership program and launched Thrival Nutrition in 2015. For more information, please visit her website at thrivalnutrition.com. Hi, Lahana. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you on today.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm excited for my audience to learn more about you and what you do with Thrival Nutrition. And our topic today is healthy living for the whole family. So let's start off with having you share a little bit about who you are and how you've become an expert in this area.
Yeah, of course. So I know that as before we started recording, we were talking about, just being a well-adjusted mama, which is why your podcast is named that. And that kind of, it starts my story, to be honest, is I was a young mom. I was 18 when I had my first son, and he's 9 now. And when I had my first son, I was still on the normal route that I wanted to take of becoming a PA. So I've always been interested in health, anything nutrition, health. Well, not nutrition. I take that back. Health in general. I've known since I was in kindergarten. I actually wanted to be a doctor. I just really loved this area. And, when I had my son, I was still going to college full time, and I was doing the preclinical and getting ready to apply for PA school. And I strictly remember in my pharmacology class, I started to feel like, okay, this is not what I'm supposed to do. And it was such a big shock to me because I've known, like I said, since I was like 5. And I'm like, it just is not my calling. I just felt like learning, this is the pill, this is what's wrong. And I'm like, there's more to life than that. There's more to health than that. And so I took a nutrition class that I was forced to take, and I'm very glad I was forced to take it. And it really turned my career around into learning more about nutrition and doing more preventative and functional medicine. And I just fell in love with it. And so that was actually around the time I was pregnant with my daughter. And that's when I started researching more and just being more in tune with the holistic aspect of health. And so then after my daughter was born and I stayed home with her for about a year and enjoying that stay-at-home mom year, because with my son, I was still going to school full-time and I was working 40 hours a week. And I was actually a manager at Aldi, which is like a grocery store. And so my schedule was so crazy. I was young. I had no other choice than to work. And so I went back to work when he was 2 weeks old. And thankfully, my mom helped a ton. But I was juggling. So when I had my daughter, I was like, heck no, I am staying home and I'm enjoying this phase because our girl was going to be our last kid. We just wanted 2. And then after a year being at home with her, I was like, you know what? I'm a go-getter. So I'm just like, I need to do something more. And then I birthed Thrival, and Thrival Nutrition started off as like a blog and a podcast and just, trying to get resources out there for moms who are interested in like healthy living. And then we did that for a couple years. And then 2.5 years ago, and we moved here to Austin, Texas. And then we started, seeing people in person and taking more of a clinical approach, helping moms and dads too, and actually pediatrics as well, of just taking that holistic nutrition approach to their health. So it's been a crazy journey, but I would not change anything for the world. So I feel like I can relate to so many moms who juggle a lot of things, but they're wanting to keep their families healthier.
Yeah, that is a lot to juggle. I can't, a few months ago, I had the opportunity to speak at a college, and the topic was really about being a parent as a college student, and that's who was in the audience, and it was for like psychology majors, and I was just speaking about conscious parenting. Um, but it was like a little hard for me to relate to that audience because I graduated from college 20 years ago and I have a 2-year-old son. So I have a huge gap between my college training, chiropractic school, even starting and building my business. I was in a very different place mentally, financially, everything before I became a parent. And it just really blew me away. I have so much respect for people who are parents and in college at the same time.
Yes, it's hard. And actually, because I graduated with my bachelor's in 2014, and I'm actually currently in grad school. So I took a little bit of a break. I am a nerd through and through, though, and I will just forever be a student of just learning. Especially, we're in this arena of health that things are always changing. So we just got to stay on top of it and make sure that, what we're recommending is the best of the best. It's evidence-based. And so people call me crazy because they're like, okay, you're running a business now and you're going back to school. And I'm like, I know. I don't know why I do it to myself, but I love it.
What are you studying right now?
Just human nutrition and functional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So
Awesome.
it really emphasizes that functional medicine part. And I got a little bit of training in my undergrad, but not like as it is in this program, which gets me super excited.
Mm-hmm. My sister completed her master's in nutrition and is a nutritionist in Connecticut, and she does functional nutrition. And I think what I love about that, and maybe we can actually spend just a minute speaking about the difference between, let's say, a dietitian and a functional nutritionist.
Yes, that's a great question. And we actually get it a lot because a lot of people, honestly, a lot of people search for a nutritionist. I think it's a very common word. But then when they come across a dietitian, they're like, I don't know what the difference is. And so when I was picking my degree program, most of the time it's recommended to go through a program that's approved by the Dietetic Association. And basically what that means is just it's more government regulated. It's very, to me, and which is why I actually didn't choose that route, it's because it's kind of old school, to be honest. It's talking about calories still, really focusing. I mean, it looked at all diets, but really focusing on like the calorie aspect of nutrition still, which is okay. But I wanted more of a functional approach. So you're looking at the whole body. Yes, diet is, 80% of what we do, but we definitely still like help you look at stress and sleep and exercise and just making sure, all your wheels are turning. And so with functional nutrition, it really dives into, okay, let's just not look at calories. Let's go into the root cause and support you nutritionally where we can. So let's look at the gut. Let's look at your hormones. Let's dive further than just, I guess, the surface level nutrition.
And I think what I also love about what you just said is let's based on whatever the root cause and usually causes for that individual is going on, whether it's a child or an adult, there's opportunity for lifestyle shifts because the truth is that whatever your lifestyle you were practicing is what created the dis-ease within your body, right? And so it does require some active changes, and can be very challenging for people. But I think that's why it's wonderful to have support and accountability from a functional nutritionist who can really help hold your hand in the beginning as you're learning how to eat differently, shop differently, read labels, and also how you're eating, right? How you're chewing your food. How are you connecting with the nutrients coming from your food? How is your gut absorbing those nutrients? I mean, this is like a lot deeper than a superficial, how many calories are you consuming a day?
Definitely. I definitely agree. Now, I will say there's dietitians that practice functional, like medicine, functional nutrition too. And some of my good friends are in that same sphere. But that's not in just the normal curriculum. They have to take additional training because, again, that functional aspect is not taught in the regular curriculum. So you just definitely have to if you do find a dietitian or nutritionist and you're wanting to aim for that functional approach, that's like the key word there.
Yeah, got it. So when people are searching for somebody locally to where they're at, they can look for that. And I know you yourself, you do see clients locally to Austin, Texas, to your practice there, but you also work with families living anywhere, correct?
Yes, which I love that because I definitely am happy that I'm not just stuck here in Austin. I love working around all the U.S. So yeah, we're I would say like 60% here in Austin, seeing people in person, but we still have a big virtual base as well.
Hmm. So let's talk about like if you have a patient in front of you, virtually or in person, who is having some sort of health concern, how do you help use food to heal the body?
Yeah. Food is the building block. It is what, gives our body what it needs, whether it's hormones, whether it's making sure we have a strong gut to be able to absorb our, what we eat and to be able to utilize it to make energy. I mean, it is the root of all. It is where we get our building blocks from. And so a lot of the times, we have like stricter protocols for certain situations like a GI issues or hormone issues, things like that. But for a lot of moms that come in and, they're just like, I'm just trying to be healthier. I'm trying to be an example, which I think is the biggest thing when we're trying to create this healthy family is being an example. Starting off with just like the most nutrient dense foods are the best things you can do. I'm a very individualized person. I don't think there's this magical diet that works for everyone. Everyone is so different, and tapping into that biochemical individuality is key. So starting off though with veggies and good proteins from animals and healthy fats, and staying away from just like a lot of refined sugars and processed foods and things of that nature can start you off at a really good spot. A lot of the time, a lot of people may know like the classic elimination diet, which helps a ton, to just kind of see, okay, how are foods, going on in my body? How is it reacting? And so some of the foods that can be really good to just take a break from, just to see how you do with them, to really start that healing. Because again, we're just really aiming for nutrient density, low inflammation, and a lot of foods that can be an issue, not for every single person. Those can be like certain grains and dairy and soy and legumes, even. And so, again, sticking with good quality proteins and veggies can be a really good place to start healing the body. And then from there, I mean, it's very independent of what you have going on, your lifestyle, stress, your sleep, and just tuning into that, but giving your body what it needs to build what it needs to build, whether it's ATP energy or hormones or whatever. The food is where it starts. And so is our gut. So if you think about it, we consume the food, it goes through our esophagus, into our stomach, into our intestines. But ultimately, we need to make sure that gut health is right, because we want to make sure that whatever we're eating, we're absorbing it and we can utilize it. So making sure, that you're getting, again, the veggies and animal proteins, all that really helps support that GI, but even just the ancestral type foods too, like the bone broth and, as yucky as it sounds, like beef liver and things of that nature can really help just flood our body with nutrition, support the GI lining, and make sure that we're absorbing what we're eating.
I have a little story about that. So I actually have been a pescatarian for 20 years. And it was interesting, like during my pregnancy, I wasn't craving meat, but in the wintertime, I definitely had some like chronic like upper respiratory, congestion that was just really my immune system was having challenges resolving. And my chiropractor, who's a functional nutritionist, was like, you really need to have some bone broth. And remember, I haven't had, meat
Yeah.
in many, many years. But in New York City, there's this amazing place called Brodo. And they even ship their frozen bone broth all over, like through Whole Foods. They distribute it in the freezer section. And it's super nutritious. And so I actually walked over from our office to Brodo and got a cup of bone broth. It was in paper cup with a lid, like a cup of coffee, and I sipped it, and it tastes delicious. And I could tell, like, my body was just like, oh, you need this. Like, I really, like, my ligaments, like, everything was just like really craving that nutrition, especially during my pregnancy. So that became something that I continued on. So I still never really ate meat per se, but the bone broth was super helpful for me during my pregnancy. And then when I started introducing solid foods to my son around 6 months of age, his first foods were pastured cow liver that we got from a local farmer, and homemade beef bone broth. So these were, like, just things that I knew were so, talk about nutrient dense, right? And easy to digest. So it was easy on a 6-month-old baby's gut to be able to handle that load without creating inflammation and stress.
Oh, yes. I love that. I know sometimes our bodies go through different seasons like pregnancy where you kind of got to tune in. And like you did, even though bone broth wasn't something that you ate naturally, you knew that. I think deep down, we kind of know what we need. And when we're able to like tune in and listen and give that, it can just be so awesome. And really, I don't know, encourages me even to realize like how powerful the body is, and that if we just listen, it communicates with us so much.
It tells us what it needs. Yeah, my last episode I was on with developmental pediatrician, and we were both sharing, like, you put healthy, nutrient dense foods in front of a baby, even let's say a 9-month-old baby, they're going to pick the foods that have the highest nutrients that their body needs at that moment. So I mean, it's fascinating. Super Nutrition for Babies, that book has taught me so much when I was going through solid food introduction for my son, and recognizing, like, it's so intuitive. It's like beyond our conscious mind, right? A 9-month, a 10-month, 11-month-old baby will just be like, yes, I need some beets. Yes, I want some of these, I want some of this pastured beef. Yes, I want, and they will just grab, if you put the platter out in front of them, they'll just grab what they need that day. And the next day, guess what? It's going to be different because the nutrient needs of their body will have changed, right? And recognizing that it's constantly evolving and changing. And if we can, even as adults, just tap into that a little more intuitively, we're really going to give our bodies exactly what it needs to fuel itself.
I love that. Oh man, I love baby led weaning. I love doing that. That was such a fun time. I did both, like baby led weaning with my daughter, and then with my son though. I always say that he's like my guinea pig. He was my first. I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and so I did like the purees and stuff. But I just loved baby led weaning. Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really, love how you're showing how healthy foods are really foundational for our body to heal. Like, we cannot heal no matter what our diagnosis if we're putting chemicals and processed foods into our body. So, I appreciate you mentioning some of the common allergenic foods that a lot of people have difficulty digesting, and that are, have an intolerance or a sensitivity. Do you do like allergy testing in your office with foods? That's a big thing that we do here, and not looking for an IgE per se, allergic response to a food, but more the subtle intolerant sensitivity level of like an IgG.
Yes, yes. We don't do allergies, but we do some food sensitivities. And we do use like the MRT, which we love, and just really, diving deep into that personalized approach of, what foods produce inflammation and what doesn't. And I think food sensitivities, I'm sure you see, I feel like they're overlooked a lot. And probably because, it's not like, oh, it's not an allergy. But even if it's not a full-blown allergy, these sensitivities can still cause a lot of symptoms and issues, and could be that missing piece that you're looking for of, why am I having these headaches? Why do I have joint pain after I eat foods? I can't pinpoint it. And it just needs to be more out there. Like, yes, food sensitivities are a thing.
They
There's
are a real thing, and it is so much more beyond like an anaphylactic allergy situation, which obviously is very important too. But let's talk about kids that are eating the same foods every day. So when you have the same type of food daily, that alone can create a sensitivity to the food because there's a lack of variety. And then the other thing is that, when we use Dunwoody Labs and we do the food sensitivity testing, we check the 88 most common food allergens. And beyond the ones that you mentioned, which are the most well known, there's foods on there like broccoli, for example, that we would consider a health food. But if you're sensitive to broccoli, then it's actually an inflammatory food. So it's really important to recognize that there are some foods that in general are inflammatory for most people. There could be actually healthy foods that you're eating regularly that are producing inflammation within your body. And of course, digestive symptoms are the most notable related to food sensitivities, but it can be even non-GI symptoms. Another one I see a lot with kids is actually behavioral issues, attention issues, and it can very much be related to food sensitivities. So, doing this like a simple blood test, and this is not a scratch test. This is actually a blood draw that is checking for the different immune system response to that food, is going to be a lot more specific in helping to guide people on what they need to temporarily take out of their diet, give their body a break, and then they can slowly start to bring it back in.
Yes, I think my two that I've been the most surprised is turmeric and salmon. Because they're so, they're talked about like these are anti-inflammatory, which, they are. They do have anti-inflammatory properties. But I've had a couple people that were sensitive to them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's insane. Because like you probably eat, they're like, yeah, I eat salmon because it's good
They
for
eat it
you.
all the time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're right, those are anti-inflammatory foods. But I think the one thing that I think, and I'm sure you would probably agree with this from what you're seeing, is all healthy foods can become inflammatory if we consume them too much, actually. So I think, can you maybe speak a little bit about how families can have like incorporate variety into their diet? Like, how can we make that realistic for a busy family?
Yeah. It all starts in the grocery store, first of all, like just making sure that, when you're grocery shopping or even when you're meal planning, which is even better, you're making your list out, what you guys are having for dinner and what you're packing for lunches. And just making sure that you're really aware when you write it out. You see, like, okay, we're having different proteins, we are having different veggies, and some people that might scare some people who meal prep and they're like, oh no, I meal prep and I do eat the same thing. But honestly, I would look at it more of like week per week. If you tend to eat a lot of broccoli for a side in 1 week, just the next week, maybe, choose another veggie. I don't think you have to feel overwhelmed or feel like it's too much. You don't have to be perfect. It's not possible, but you can at least just make sure that when you meal plan before you go to the grocery store, that you're using veggies that you maybe didn't use a lot this time around. Maybe you used a lot of like arugula 1 week, adding it into salads or just as like toppings. And then maybe this week you can do spinach. And so thankfully we live in a society that we go to the grocery store and we have so many options. We're not in the 1800s anymore where we're stuck with, what's imported. So we have all the variety. Same with, fruits, and you can do berries and maybe next day do more apples. I'm just so thankful for that. So just making sure that, before you go to the grocery store, before you go, you just write it out and make sure that like, okay, this is like, I'm getting a good variety of everything. And I know with kids, it can be a little bit harder just because some are picky, some aren't sure, that they even want to try it. I swear I've had the pickiest eaters in my life, and I think just God gave it to me. So like, all right, you're going to help moms with picky eaters. So
Oh, your own children?
yes, like I'm 100% not sure how my daughter survived after her second year. She survived off coconut milk. I'm not sure how she's alive. No matter how much I tried and pushed, she just went through a really picky stage. And you got to kind of give yourself grace in those aspects and keep trying. But there's different ways and techniques that moms can try to just encourage this, variety of veggies and meats and stuff. And there's some really cool like plates that you can get for your kiddos on like Amazon. I think it's called Fred Dinner Winner plates. And they're like little basically it's like a game, and like each, pocket, you put in a new food and then they eat it. And then at the end, there is like a little, place where you can put like a treat, whether it's non-food or food, just to encourage them to like, try different things no matter what. And so, again, I don't think that people have to be crazy overwhelmed with making sure that they're eating a variety. I just think, picking up 1 or 2 extra new veggies or fruits every time you go grocery shopping that's kind of what you need to do. I just try not to make moms overthink it.
Yes, let's definitely keep it simple. And to your point, like especially a working mom, maybe they're making meals for the week on Sunday, and there are going to be some leftovers that week, right? But then if some of it, and maybe you freeze and you have it a couple weeks later, then you're also giving yourself a break between, having it every single day that week.
Yes, I definitely, don't think, and a lot of your listeners probably aren't in this season of life, but with, the Instagram and meal prep and working out, all you see is like chicken, broccoli, sweet potato, chicken, broccoli, sweet potato. And it doesn't, one, have to be boring to eat like that, but 2, like you said, I love that. There's definitely things that you can use to freeze these meals. But if by chance, you do eat a lot of that in a week, just make sure that you're using a variety next week. And maybe you're using grass-fed beef or salmon or, some legumes or just something different.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we talked about meal planning, grocery shopping. I think for me, what I love is be able to have groceries delivered to my home. I think that's like one of the blessings of living in an urban environment. But farmers markets, there's just so many, like you said, options compared to the 1800s of getting variety. And then what about eating like seasonally as well and locally?
I do love that. And I feel like we naturally do that a little bit because the best tasting food is what's in season. So like, unfortunately, we're going into the season. We love berries, blueberries, strawberries. I mean, we love berries, but we're definitely going into the season of them not, yes, they're available, but they're not that good. They don't, I don't know, they're just
Yeah.
not that juicy.
They're not in season.
Yes, they're just not robust like they are in the summer and stuff. So naturally, I just tend to be more toward like apples because they do taste fantastic at this time. And so if we kind of let our taste buds navigate the produce section, we find ourselves eating more seasonally, like butternut squash and pumpkin and all that stuff for the fall. And I do love it because too, that's so great for your budget. If you're on a budget, foods that are in season are so much more affordable. And I feel like that's naturally a great way to, create diversity and making sure that, you're eating butternut squash at the end of the year. Because guess what? It's probably not going to be available in the spring. So naturally, we'll seasonally make sure that we're getting a variety.
Right. And my family's a member of CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. So believe it or not, even now it's November while we're recording this episode, we're still getting a box every week of whatever's been harvested that week. And it's been apples, it's been pumpkin, it's been butternut squash and potatoes and sweet potatoes. And so for the first time, I actually made a pumpkin pie from fresh pumpkin. And I've made pumpkin pie for years, but always canned pumpkin, right? And I never thought much about it. Like my husband and I were like blown away. We're like, oh my God, this tastes so much better than canned pumpkin pie.
Really? I actually
Yeah.
don't think I've ever had, and I'm a pumpkin lover. Like I am definitely basic in that aspect. But don't think I've had a real pumpkin. and made pie. Now that like encourages me to go do it. That sounds
Oh, and
so
it's
good.
so easy. You just literally, cut up the pumpkin into chunks, even with the skin on. You throw it in the oven for about an hour, right, to roast it, soften it up, and then once it's cooled, you take off the skin. You have the essentially the puree then at that point, right, and that is in replacement of the can that you buy at the store, and it was so easy. I bought a gluten-free pie shell. And then, all you do is throw in some spices, evaporated milk. And I mean, yeah, it was very, very easy.
Oh, that sounds awesome. It's going to be on my to-do list.
Yes. So, yeah, I feel like, I think I forgot where I was going with that. So like food delivery. So there's so many companies now that will deliver groceries right to your home. You can have organic options. I mean, I think it's just really shifting the way that we, keep our fridge stocked, right? With especially fresh produce, is just having that convenience factor. Do you want to talk a little bit about, pantry items and maybe even freezer foods that are good to have on hand for a busy mama?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. That is sometimes, and it's so funny because we, in our minds, we're like, I just want to be this mom and just homemade fresh meals all the time and just, fresh, 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 which of course, honestly, most of us is still pretty fresh. But in those times and in those days where things get hectic and they will 100% happen, having those pantry items are so needed and it makes life so easy. One pantry item that I cannot live without because it's just so quick, so easy, so nutrient dense is wild caught tuna. And it's so funny because as a kid, I hated tuna actually, and now I love it. And Safe Catch and Wild Planet are some of my favorite companies. Safe Catch, I think, is the lowest in mercury, or they test for it. And then Wild Planet, is just wild caught tuna, and it's just a fantastic company.
I
So
bought Wild Planet tuna at Target. My local Target had it in
yes,
stock. I was like so happy.
yes,
It is so great to have that in your pantry as like easy go to.
yes. I buy mine at Costco. I try to do all mine at Costco if I can. Um, but I love it because I think proteins are honestly the hardest to make quickly because a lot of the proteins are like seafood or animal proteins or most of the time they're frozen, like uncooked and raw, and proteins should be in like every part of your meal. And eggs is another great easy one to have too. That's a must in my life. And so having something like canned tuna can be really great and quick. And mixing it with avocado oil mayo, boom, like tuna salad in a second with some Simple Mills crackers. Like you cannot get an easier meal than that.
Mhm.
Um,
I even love throwing like Bubby's pickles. They're fermented, and I just chop them up like as a relish to throw in with the tuna salad.
oh, I've never tried that. That sounds really good.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
And so I'm not a crazy big person that buys a lot of things in a box and bag, but there are still some things in this day and age that we can have in our pantry, and it's technically quote unquote box bag processed ish. So I do love certain bars like Epic bars. Again, another quick protein. We love like Lar bars and Omega, and we really look for just kind of a whole food clean as possible source. Simple Mills crackers. They're made with almond flour, so they're naturally gluten free, avoiding a lot of the top common allergens. I'm trying to think what else that
I
eggs.
like RX bars. Do you ever eat those?
I love them. Like they're very clean, but I actually don't like how hard they are.
Oh,
I think they're just so hard, and so they're harder to chew. And my kids just aren't fans.
they
I
are
don't
chewy.
I don't buy them as much.
Yeah, they do have an RX for kids. I had chocolate chips in it, but I gave my son it last night. He loved it.
I cannot live without some Enjoy Life chocolate chips. That
Yes.
it's in a like a little glass jar on the top of the pantry. If I'm just craving a little bit of dark chocolate, like that's my
Right.
go-to. And I eat it in the pantry, so no one else knows. My kids aren't coming to ask me what it is. Um, I'm trying to think. And we love chips or we have great options now. Jackson's Honest. We aim for chips that are made with avocado oil or coconut oil. We love nuts and seeds, sprouted pumpkin seeds and cashews and almonds. Those are definitely, our go-to snacks. Actually, at Costco, they have this paleo nut mix, and I think it's almonds, I want to say cashews, and hazelnuts and like dark chocolate chips. And it's the best like trail mix I've had in a long time. I don't know. I think it's Wild Roots. I think that's the brand name of it. And we're also a big fan of seaweed, dried seaweed. We love sea snacks. That's just a great snack if you're craving something salty. But seaweed's one of the only sources of good iodine. And so I'm so thankful that my kids love it. And I think if your kid doesn't love it, palates change a couple times a year when they're kids. So just kind of keep introducing it.
Keep offering it. Exactly.
And just, see what happens. But that's definitely a nice little salty snack that we like to have on hand. But we do like to have in our freezer of just quickness, already like cooked chicken breast and chicken strips. We do have gluten-free Applegate chicken nuggets for
yes,
the chaos.
I have those too in my freezer.
Yes, I love them. And honestly, just already pre-cooked. So no matter what we're making that night before, let's say we do like grilled chicken breast, for example, I always make a little extra, and then I will just freeze the extra, and I'll just start building up my stash. And same with like veggies, like broccoli that honestly we're not going to eat, freezer, extra spaghetti squash, freeze. And that way, like soon I will be able to like make a quick meal based on, what we have in the freezer. And one of my favorite blends to have in the freezer, it's by Whole Foods, like their 365 organic, is their, I think it's like Asian stir fry mix. And it has like green beans and broccoli and onions and mushrooms, things like that. And if you just mix that with like a good protein of your choice, and a little bit of like toasted sesame oil and coconut aminos, like you have the most delicious meal, and it's like made in like 20 minutes. It's awesome.
Very quick. Yeah. Awesome. One thing I think we might want to cover is when people are preparing leftovers, throwing them in the freezer, or just getting, like you said, stuff in the freezer section from Whole Foods. When we're warming it up for ourselves or our children, why do we want to avoid using the microwave?
And because it definitely uses radiation, not just, like in the food, but also just into the environment that you're around. And so a way around that, and this is totally me not jumping on the bandwagon because I fought this for a long time, but I have been using an air fryer lately, and I just got it, and it's actually the one by Cuisinart. So it's actually like a conventional oven, and a toaster and an air fryer. But it truly is awesome. And I feel like, and I'm a human, so I have definitely used my microwave. I use it occasionally. I try to avoid it as much as I can. But now with the air fryer, I find that like I don't use the microwave almost at all at this point.
That is so cool. My sister actually got rid of her microwave to get rid of that temptation of using it years ago. I have not done that yet myself. But what is an air fryer? I'm actually not familiar with that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I looked, and it looks like usually most air fryers are this like egg shaped contraption, and you're like, what is that? But when I was trying to find one, I'm very picky. I don't want the Teflon. I don't want the nonstick, trying to minimize environmental toxins. And so what this does, so I found the Cuisinart, it's stainless steel and stuff. But when I started like researching into like an air fryer, it's basically just this hot air that circulates really quickly, and it's, usually in a smaller, tighter space. So it just circulates very, really quick, really hot, and it creates like this crispiness. So a lot of the time it's known as like the fryer alternative. And you don't have to use, well, you actually don't have to use any oil, but I definitely find if I just use a little bit of avocado oil, it just tastes better. But you can use minimal oil, which I am not trying to say eat low fat or anything like that. I love me some good quality oils. But if you're really looking for that crispy, if you're making homemade chicken tenders, or you just want to heat some heats them up, that like the Applegate ones. It is just a really quick way to cook it and then also to maintain that crispiness on the outside. And you can do burgers, you can do any type of vegetable like broccoli. I mean, you name it. It's like
From the
endless.
freezer, you can just throw it in there.
From the freezer, I actually did my second thing that I ever made in the air fryer that we bought was the Applegate grass-fed burgers, and they have like mushrooms in them. And those are straight from the freezer, frozen. And I put it on the air fryer plate, put it on, all the settings. And in like 12 minutes, it came out like perfect, ready to eat, great quality. And
Wow,
I'm
you
like,
don't have to even do anything. It just does its
yes,
thing for 12 minutes.
yep. And I'm like,
Wow.
boom. Like you can't get faster and easier than that.
Right. And just also the fact that it's slow maintenance, right? Like you don't have to be like standing over the pan, flipping it and
Mhm.
having oil splatter all over your stovetop.
That's the worst thing. It's the oil. It's the leftover cleanup, to be honest.
Yeah. And less oil. I mean, like I said, I appreciate avocado oil too, and it's got all those good fats in it. But at the end of the day, it's nice to not have to use large amounts.
Yes, for sure. Especially naturally when you want that like fried feel. I remember I have a recipe on my blog for popcorn shrimp, and that was my favorite when I was a kid. And I made like a gluten-free version, and I think it might be dairy-free. And when I made it, I used like all this coconut oil, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm just thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna have to throw that away. That was so much like coconut oil just to get like the crispiness. I haven't tried it in the air fryer
Mm.
yet, but
I bet it would be
honestly,
so good, and you could
so
use the
good.
coconut oil in the air fryer.
Exactly. And it
Oh,
won't
cool.
just be so much. I won't feel like I'm wasting it.
Right. Well, that sounds awesome. I just learned something new.
Get it? It's all
um,
the rage.
Lahana, I would love if you could just kind of share with us a little bit about self-care, balancing self-care for mamas, because that is a big theme of my brand and this podcast. And it's something I know that you live in your life. So, I mean, what do you do for yourself? What do you recommend to the women that you work with?
Yeah. It really boils down to like, what do you love to do? What brings you joy? What makes you smile? What gets you out of, just making you feel good? And, sometimes it can be just honestly scheduling a time to go on a date or scheduling time to go hang out with your friends, whatever it is, just I think the whole idea, especially with self care, is just making it a priority. And with moms, it's so easy to put yourself last, to put your kids first, put your husband, your boyfriend, whoever before you. And I know that's so selfless and it's awesome, but it when you do this, you definitely your cup will start to become empty, and you can't be the mom you truly want to be if you're not feeling happy or energized or excited about the day. You need self-care when you wake up and you're like dreading the day, or you just feel like your schedule is running you and everything. So for me, and I've naturally always been able to do this. My my husband always jokes. He's like, "Do you ever feel a little selfish?" I'm like, "Actually, not really. I don't." And so my self care, and he's the opposite. It's hard for him to do this, so that's why he's like, "How can you do it?" But I will start my day a little bit later. So I'll start seeing clients a little bit later, like maybe like 10 or 10:30. But I will, because I got to drop my kids off at school, but I will prioritize going to the gym. I will go to the gym. That is my joy. I love doing it. It just makes me motivated and feel strong and all the things. And I put it first because I know if I don't put it first, I'm never going to do it. And so, no matter what that is, whether it's going on a walk, a hike, again, going out to brunch, going out to lunch, make sure that you just schedule it in. Even if you're like, I just want to read, I just want to go down by the pool and read. Well, guess what? Put that in your calendar, because if it's not in your calendar, it's not going to happen.
You
Say
got to schedule it. Yeah.
an hour and then just do it, and make it happen, whether it's trying to get someone to help you with the kids, hiring someone. I tell people that the person that you become when you do your self-care is so worth it, even if that's $20 that you have to pay a high schooler to come babysit your kids for an hour. Whatever it is, you just have to make it happen, and you have to do it, and you just Your kids will love it. Your husband will love it. People will love it because you're you and you're happy and you feel good.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing that. I think also I really appreciate how you just ended that because I had a actually heated disagreement with a friend on Saturday night. I was out with two girlfriends for dinner, and she was like, "Oh, I'm thinking a lot about who I am, right, as a person." And she's like, "I'm a mom first, I'm a wife second, I'm a business person third." And she's like going through the list, and I'm like, "Aren't you Ellen first?" And she was just like, "Huh?" Like it was just like and I think also she was equating like that the majority of her time is about her. And that's not even what we're saying. We're not saying that self care means that hours of your day are focused on yourself. But we're really saying that you, as an individual, without your titles, sister, wife, mother, business person, employee, whatever, like it doesn't even matter what the titles are, all of those titles are being served from you as a person, as the spirit within that person, right? And that is what is craving that self care. And putting yourself first doesn't necessarily mean hours a day of going to the spa, right? It's just really about having some time every day for yourself where your health, your mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health come first. And so I think that's actually interesting. And sometimes that can be confusing, I think, for women, because we do wear a lot of different hats and we have a lot of different titles. But essentially, all of those titles that we're serving the people around us, those roles that we're playing, aren't what define us as a person. It's the person that we were born into this world as, that our spirit, that's who we are.
Yes. And
Regardless, yeah.
yeah. And I always remind people that like your kids are going to get older one day and they're going to leave. And, sometimes that's like, okay, I need you all the time. But at the same time, you don't want to get so lost into motherhood where when your kids leave, you're like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know who I am anymore. All I am is a mom. And so you have to make sure that you are prioritizing. And I feel like the amount, and whether that's getting up an hour earlier, that's, when I do Bible study, that's when I, also do a little bit of self-care as well. You just have to do it because the last thing you really want is just one day to wake up and you've lost yourself and you just kind of don't know who you are anymore.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing, is like to lose yourself, and that can happen when we confuse who we are with our titles, right? And recognizing that our titles are going to constantly shift and change. Divorces happen, children leave the home, empty nesters, jobs come and go, things change. That's part of life. So recognizing that that is what will happen, but who we are as a person does not have to change necessarily. Like that's, if we're authentic to who we are, that's with us forever.
Yeah. And don't apologize for it. Like be you, be authentic. Like no matter what you're doing, just make sure that make yourself as a priority. And I feel like just as a mom, we naturally are taught like don't make your like self priority. Like now you have kids, like they're your first thing. And of course, like I don't love my kids any less. I don't ever if they were sick, of course my things are put on the back burner so I can take care of them. But you have to take it day by day, and for the majority of the time, yeah, you just gotta. I guess you do you. No,
Yeah.
but take care of yourself. Don't ever think that you're less than anyone else.
Right. Oh, I really appreciate that you saying that. And I do think it is important to recognize that this is an ongoing thing, and it will be day to day. And some days, yeah, your kid's going to really need a lot of help and support from their mama, right? And that's what you're going to do. And maybe your self care will get pushed aside for that one day, maybe even that one week. But ideally, it's not this ongoing cycle that we can get stuck in, where it's recognizing like, okay, the top priorities in my life today are this. And then tomorrow we can reevaluate and have a different schedule and a different plan, and really having that flexibility and that adaptability. Cool. All right. Well, Lahana, I am just so grateful for you taking your time out to come on the show today to share your passion and wisdom for women and families to really thrive and live optimally through lifestyle and nutrition.
Thank you so much for having me.